Okay. So when Shane asked me to share some stuff for this session, I thought that I might share a bit more about the insecurities that I felt when I joined USP, which I kind of saw some of your reflections just now about. I think one person said you feel this sense of I'm not good enough, especially so during USP classes. Yeah, I feel the same way. So I start with like a self-introduction. So I was from SST, which is a science school, and I went to do a diploma in pharmacy science at Ngee Ann Poly. Then I decided to move to do the social sciences, global studies, and minor in public health, because in my third year of Polytechnic, I realized that despite clinical work being something that I'm interested in, it's very routine and regimented, and I really wanted to impact. I kind of knew I wanted to impact change in healthcare at the population level, so I decided to move to something more multidisciplinary. And NUS had a minor in public health, so I decided to pick that up. So I felt really lacking initially in USP because majority of USP students are from JC. So the first question that I usually get is, oh, which JC are you from? And I have to say, oh, I'm from Poly and I did this. Then they'd be like, oh, okay, quite interesting. The good news is that I think USP students in general are quite open and welcoming. So that was really nice. The other thing that I first noticed during orientation and camps was that people seem to be talking about concepts that I didn't understand. So there's a lot of philosophy words that were being thrown about. And there were challenges during camp which were focused on like logical reasoning and a lot of trivia-based questions, which I found difficult to participate in. So that was quite difficult for me to feel like I'm good enough to be in USC, because can you imagine it's orientation camp and everyone seems to be enjoying certain activities that you can't seem to partake in. So then I felt not good enough. They were also talking about books and a lot about their JC experiences, which I couldn't identify with. So that was another reinforcing factor. Then during class, there was WCT, and it was focused a lot on writing. So that was, I don't know how your WCT experiences went. Mine was Toho. I took it under Prof. Ryan. I took it intentionally. I'm not sure if you've heard about Toho. Any Toho people here? So it's one of the most rigorous, probably USP modules you can take. And I took it intentionally because I was entering a social science, which was very writing intensive. And USP as a whole is a writing intensive program. So if I wanted to learn how to write well, I should take the module that is best known to teach you how to write. So I took Toho, and that was a huge challenge for me, trying to keep my spirits above water, because prof is so demanding and the standards are really high. So that was another downer for me. And basically just transitioning from doing a whole life of science into doing social sciences and seeing people around me from JC who had been writing essays for 2 very rigorous years of their life back in JC, this was yet another blow to my self-esteem. So yeah, after I felt not good enough, but thanks to the help of some very kind seniors, some from Poly, some from JC, I tried to carve out a more intentional university life so I don't get lost in like competition and comparing myself to others. And a huge part of this was trying to be intentional about what I choose to participate in, so that I don't end up comparing myself to people who have absolutely different goals from me. So one advice that my senior gave me in my first year was to really try new things, because it's your first year in uni after all. You should explore, see what you're interested in and try. But at the same time, you have 8 semesters in school, you have 4 years. You don't have to try everything in your first year or first semester. You can split it up. Something that my senior said she saw a lot of USP students doing is to sign up for all the fun things that they see, overcommit, and then in the end, you split your attention between too many things and you burn out. So that is not good for you to start your university life, because you end up maybe feeling not good enough because you just signed up for too many things at the start. Another advice that she gave me was, in your first year, especially the first semester, people are down to make friends. So it's a really good time for you to start establishing like a social support system for yourself. So in the year when people are like most down to play, it's the second semester and you're first year, right? I'm not sure if you noticed the drop in energy level when it comes to socializing, like between first sem and second sem. I'm not sure if you noticed there's a difference. So it's good to use and capitalize on your first year to try to establish a support system, though notwithstanding that you can still do so in your second, third, fourth years. For domain-specific knowledge, I tried to find and experiment in areas that I'm interested in. One area being the field of public health. So I started getting interested in public health research. Then my second year, now that I've dabbled in certain things, certain IGs, I decided to focus on skills like leadership. So I was producer for USP Productions from 2019 to 2020. And I was very strategic about this opportunity because it's a year-long commitment, so it's a big one. That's one. Second thing is it's high stake. So it's a 10K budget project, which means I'll be handling a lot of money, which means I can't afford to fail, which means it's a very good opportunity for me to stretch myself. The second thing. The third thing is I saw the people who were signing up as directors and the other producer, and I respected their work ethics. So I wanted to learn from them and work from them. So that's the other criteria. The third one was I'll be leading about 50 people in USP Productions. I've never led such a big group of people towards one strategic goal before. And I thought that since it's high stakes, since it's I'll be working with really cool people, why not try and develop some leadership skills and have fun at the same time, because productions is a really fun endeavor and it's the last time I'll have the chance to engage in a creative kind of project. Yeah, so that was my strategic decision to develop my leadership skills. Then diving further into my areas of interest, because I identified that I wanted to work on research in first year, it opened many doors. I did my ISM with a professor that I admired, and doing good work there meant that when I approached another professor that I really liked to work on another research project, she said yes, and that meant that I could dive further into my areas of interest. And in third year, I think you might notice this once you enter third year, that the USP bubble is quite a small one and there's an entire world out there for you to explore. So I was tired of USP. Oh, I want to say that in first and second year, to experiment, to see what I was good at, I also started a public health interest group and ran a blood donation drive just to see whether, planning events, doing posters was my kind of thing. And after 2 years of doing that, I realized that I wanted to dive deeper into public health education and research instead of just focusing on more event-based stuff. So doing that in first and second year kind of told me, okay, this is not my cup of tea. I want to move on to do something else. And so third year, I decided to go outside and do my own thing. And my plan is for fourth year, ideally I would have known what I roughly like or dislike, and I can spend my fourth year preparing for my career, even though first 3 years, technically you're also preparing for your career. Yeah, okay. Moving on. So this is a decision framework that you guys might find helpful. I don't know, it was helpful for me because uni is all about so many different opportunities, right? For you to pick the best one so that you spend your time more intentionally. Don't overstretch yourself or find yourself caught in a commitment that you don't really enjoy and you waste time when you could have been doing something that you might have been more interested in or developing a skill that is more useful to you. So this might be a framework that might be helpful for you. Okay, so next on, why I joined the FYI SG program, which is the real reason why I'm here to share. I wanted to learn how to identify my own strengths, skills, and interests, because this is sometimes like quite foreign to us. Like maybe our friends or our family are better at identifying these things for us than we are ourselves. But it is a skill to be able to learn how to identify them yourself so that you don't have to constantly rely on the feedback of others, though those might be helpful. So I wanted to learn this skill. And second, if I want to spend like my time more purposefully and as much as possible, have fun in my future endeavors, I want to be able to learn how to leverage on what I'm good at, what I'm naturally interested in, and what I'm better at compared to others. Yeah, so I was really scared of getting myself trapped into the wrong kind of commitment. So yeah, and I wanted to start identifying my own inner compass because it can get quite tiring and you might have experienced burnout when studying just for exams or doing certain things because it's good for your CV, and that's not sustainable in the long run. So I wanted to identify my own inner compass. And if you're familiar with Scott Adams, he talks about this thing called the talent stack, where you're able to differentiate yourself if you can find like 3 skills or talents that you can like sort of put together and define yourself in a certain way that that other people can't. So in a way, I was trying to identify my own talent stack when I joined the FYSG program. Yeah. So this is what we did for one of our FYSG workshops. It's called the SSI chart, where basically you try to fill up this chart here, and ideally you want to focus a lot of your time on the things in this quadrant. What energizes you? That means when you do it, you feel like, oh my gosh, I could do this forever, even if I'm not paid, that kind of thing, that kind of feeling. And what you are good at. These are your strengths. Yeah. So through this, so I made a chart, and this was mine. It's a bit messy. But after doing this chart during the workshop, I identified these things. So so moving forward, ideally what I want to focus on, the projects that I want to contribute to should kind of have these elements. Yeah. So it turns out that I'm decent at writing, even though probably thanks to Toho at the start, I'm decent at writing, and I might not be the best communicator out there, but it's a skill that I'm better at compared to many of my other, I guess, skills. So this is an area that I decided I want to zoom in on. And research, I realized that this was a strength because I have explored different ways of doing different research channels, and I realized that, hey, this could be a strength for me. Other things I explored and dabbled in were things like debate, public speaking, drawing, design. And I realized that, oh my God, I really don't like these things, and I find it so tedious to do. So those things, I will not focus my attention on them anymore. Yeah. Okay, another thing that we did was to identify things that matter to us. Like, what is our definition of success? And we had to fill up this spectrum thingy. So what was most important to me was, it seems like, these things. And it wasn't until this exercise that I really sat down and think about what success actually means to me. So this was a really helpful exercise, because sometimes you and your friends might appear to have the same definitions of success. So you might pursue the same activities to put on your CV. And it seems like your friends are doing so much better and they seem so much happier when they do a certain activity, but you are not. Perhaps it's because your metrics for success are different. He may find something fulfilling and ultimately defines him doing a good job at that particular thing like successful, but for you it might not, maybe because the metric that it's measured on is not what's important to you. So for example, for some people, they really want to have a job that they can travel as they wish, but it's not that important to me. Some people think that, I want to buy whatever books I want. This is incredibly important to me. So I must have a job that pays a lot of money so I can have my own library, that kind of thing. But it's not that important to me. So yeah, so doing this exercise was very illuminating for me. Okay. So one of the things that we had to do during the session was to kind of our own Ikigai statement, which is like your purpose statement. So from here, you will be combining like what is it that you think is very purposeful to you with your strengths. So my strengths here, like write, research, consolidate information, and teach. And ultimately the kind of impact that I want to make based on what I currently think is my current purpose in life. And keeping in mind that my definition of success is as such. So when I pick opportunities, I don't have to go back to like, oh, will this benefit me? Are my friends doing this thing? Or will it look good on my CV? I just go back to this statement as kind of like a guiding compass to help me decide, okay, does this opportunity help me further this goal? Does it leverage on the strengths that I have? So it's kind of like a shortcut, mental heuristic for you to lean back on. And the Ikigai statement is fluid, dynamic, it's not static. So as you go along, you try new things, you realize that, okay, you would like to refine like writing. What kind of writing are you better at compared to others? Or you feel that this is not really the right way to capture your purpose, and through doing certain things, you want to refine it a bit more. So the Ikigai statement is dynamic. So my project was to come up with a personal site to exhibit my own public writing. If you're interested in public health, you can give it a visit. So as part of the FYSG program, we had to come up with like a project of sorts to start exploring what our interests might be, to kind of like test out your Ikigai statement and to embark on it's like at the end of 4 years you have a capstone project, something like that. So the capstone project for the FYSG program was, this is my capstone, and one of the things that I wanted to do was to write about the public health professionals that I admire, and to share their best practices with other health professionals. So when I was doing this project, constantly I was thinking that I'm not good enough as well. And what does someone who's good enough look like? They write really well, they are publishing on a regular basis, and they're really good interviewing. So for context, one of the article series that I'm working on is where I interview people in public health that I admire and try to consolidate the best insights that they have and their own journeys into public health so that other students and professionals can learn from them. And the entire process, I learned how to become a better interviewer. It started out with me really scrambling during my interview. I wasn't even I wasn't even brave enough to ask my interviewee if I could record the conversation. And then when the conversation went south, I would usually scramble for words and I'd be so nervous. That was in August last year. And those people whom I interviewed were usually personal contacts, so some of Shiying's friends and people who I followed on Twitter. So I reached out to them. That was really scary as well because, oh my gosh, what if they think I'm just a student and they don't want to talk to me, right? So out of like 10 people that I approached, 7 eventually agreed to an interview. And over time, I just kept refining my process. And just these 2 weeks, I interviewed some of the most amazing people, and the articles will be out soon. One of them is located in the US. They are a team that does science communication. Last Tuesday, I interviewed Dr. Jeremy Lim. He is quite a prolific policy consultant in public health in Singapore. And today I interviewed a country director of an NGO doing public health work in Timor. It turns out that I got to meet these people because of the latest piece that I published in January. It was because the person I interviewed liked the piece so much. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it also that she referred me to these people. And it took like many tries for me to get to this one piece because like my previous pieces, I don't even want to read them. I think they're quite bad. It was through this process of iteration and writing and practicing that I got to this one piece that eventually opened a lot more doors. And I was able to move forward in this way really thanks to Shane and Shamantha. Shamantha is Shane's sister. Shamantha was my personal coach during the program, and she sat down with me to set milestones, and she pushed me to more concrete steps to reach the goal that I wanted. And they helped me refine the emails that I was sending out. They were my accountability buddies. So one of them was to share my work publicly on Reddit, which surprisingly got a really good response. And it was from there where I slowly got feedback and validation for my ideas. And last of all, I guess this one I'm still trying to do, which is to identify my own strengths and celebrate them and lean on them. So to end off, FYSG might be for you if you want to learn how to identify your own strengths, skills, and interests, and how you can leverage on them to spend your time more purposefully, start identifying your inner compass, and maybe, start building your own skill stack.